Let's get into the headlines in Nigeria, see what the papers are this morning. And I have with me journalist in the studio, senior researcher, TVC News, Cyril Abaku is here, as well as public affairs analyst Shejibumi Adebi Bennett. Gentlemen, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Nice to see you both.
Yeah.
Great. Let's start with the Nation newspaper this morning. Nation is where we start from. EFCC gets more facts on Oyo-Ita, 3 billion naira fraud. And the fraud is put in parentheses because there are all still allegations here and there. A head of civil service under pressure to quit. Okay, that's what you see on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Let's go now to the Nigerian News Direct. News Direct says, my administration will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. That's the President, Buhari, is quoted as saying that. It charges ministers to prepare for long hours of work. Okay. You recall that the retreat is ongoing. Today is the second day or day 2 of the retreat. From the News Direct, let's go to Daily Sun. Financial crisis imminent. That's the federal government is saying this. Raises issues over target realization on tax revenue. Experts blame government. Prepare for laborious days, Buhari tells incoming ministers. Okay. That's what you see on the front page of the Daily Sun. Nigerians are hard-working people, if you ask me. All right, moving now to the blueprint. Blueprint is the next. Now, as ministers designate take oath, will work as a team, Buhari assures Nigerians. Court rejects a suit on inauguration and tasks before new finance minister. Experts are trying to dissect and set agenda there for the incoming ministers when their portfolios are shared to them. From the blueprint, let's go to Daily Trust. And Daily Trust is saying why Oyo-Ita opted for early retirement. Okay. The presidency is still saying we have not received any letter from Oyo-Ita wanting to resign or any letter of resignation. So it's still an allegation, or sorry, a rumor, let me say, not allegation, still a rumor as far as that is concerned. But that's what you see on the front page of the Daily Trust. Let's go now to the Vanguard. Vanguard now says more items face forex ban. CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, is quoted as saying this. It says no going back on Buhari's directive on food imports. And federal government plans to apply stay of action on $9 billion judgment. Nigeria won't depend on handouts from foreign partners. The President Buhari is quoted as saying this. And analysts react, say move will aggravate inflation, weaken naira value in parallel market. Okay. Analysts are all making comments on this. From the Vanguard, let's go to the Nigerian Tribune. As police lay siege to symposium venue, call for revolution, rather. Call for revolution, not new. Falana says Nigerians won't allow dictatorship again, he adds. Okay, that's what you see on the front page of the Nigeria Tribune. Gentlemen, let's, I like this issue, this story on the News Direct will interest you, where the president is quoted as saying, my administration will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. Okay, you remember in his inaugural speech, he actually, that was the first time he mentioned this, apart from the fact that he's been working to reduce poverty all the while with all his programs. But then the idea of taking 100 million people out of poverty within his remaining 4 years is what analysts are saying, okay, how is this going to work? Knowing that in the last 4 years, the statistics show that the poverty rate in Nigeria had increased. Cyril, let me start with you there.
Let me start by saying that all over the world, we've seen examples. Governments don't directly lift people out of poverty. It is the people who lift themselves out of poverty if they have the right environment. And we've said that word, enabling environment, has become a cliche among us. But if you go to Malaysia, you go to China, the Asian tiger
you see the actual...
Yes. There was a time, I think, under Ronald Reagan in the US, there's something economics now called the Laffer curve. It was a Republican president. He came and said he was going to give the big companies tax cuts. When those tax cuts came, the companies reinvested the monies that they were making from the tax cuts and then, boosted the economy, created more jobs from those investments. The reality is that more people are falling into poverty in the last 4 years. And so, don't even tell us that people are, tell us what you're exactly going to do. Power is still a major problem. You have businesses like barber shops and tomato grinding, units that move from one location to another in one state, maybe 4 times in a month. Why? Because they look for where to get stable power. Up until now, we talk about metering, but meters are still nowhere to be found. In many places, there was a particular village in the southeast where a whole village was given just 1 meter to share. So how do you, well, if people are talking about out of poverty, it means that the rural to urban migration push will also reduce. If I feel secure in my environment that I can make well for myself, I don't have any need moving to the urban areas.
Moving to the urban areas.
But all the indicators of a developing country are still very much with us.
All right. Now Shiji, I know you've been following this development. I wonder how this comes to you. Is there anything new when you hear either the president or any senior government official saying, we are going to do this, we are going to do this, especially from the Nigerian context?
Yes, he just mentioned some things that are very important in making sure all these rhetorics are not just mere statements. Like power, like infrastructure, those are the things that get people out of poverty. How did India do it? They got a nexus between the infrastructure and poverty. So if we can improve infrastructure, then poverty can be reduced. So they were building 6 kilometers of road every day. So with that, they were able to lift like over 600 million people out of poverty within a space of, I think, 15 years. So those are the things that they did. Now, if the government is telling us that it's going to happen in 4 years, I will not believe that. It's not going to be possible. But I think what is said there when he made that statement was in the next 10 years, that they were going to lay a foundation for that. So that in 10 years, those things can happen. And I believe in 10 years it can happen because if you look at what has been happening within the last 1 week, the Siemens contract, if it can be followed very well, whereby by 2023 or 24, then the nation can have 25,000 megawatts of electricity and all those things that have been put in place. Now, we're now going to a situation whereby we're giving reputable companies, people that have done, they just did it in Egypt. We're giving them the contracts, not cronies of government and all that. So if all these things are followed, it's possible within the next 10 years.
Well, when it comes to the possibility, certainly no one has doubts that these things are possible. It's just that the Nigerian, the Nigerian environment is always a peculiar, very unique one in that context. But let's see how things go. The call is to make Nigerians support the president in ensuring that things work. Thank you very much, Shijibumi Adebi Bennett, for coming on the program.
Take you now to what the papers are saying this morning, talking about lead stories. And to review them, I have with me in the studio journalist and a senior researcher here at TVC News, Cyril Abaku. Good morning, Cyril.
A pleasure, Kemi.
Also with Cyril is public affairs analyst Shijibumi Adebi Bennett. Good morning, Shiji.
Thank you for
You're
having
welcome to TVC Breakfast. All right, gentlemen, let's dive straight into the papers this morning, beginning with The Nation. The lead story is EFCC gets more facts on Oyo-Ita. That's the head of the civil service. Over a 3 billion naira supposed fraud. The writer says for the head of civil service under pressure to quit, says The Nation. The Nigerian News Direct is leading differently. The story that gets the most attention is my administration will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty, says President Muhammadu Buhari. He charges ministers to prepare for long hours of work. This at the 2-day ministerial retreat that's continuing today in Abuja. Let's check out Daily Sun. Financial crisis imminent. This is according to the federal government. There's also an issue now over target realization in tax revenue. Experts blame government, and President Buhari tells incoming ministers prepare for laborers' days. Blueprint is next, still on the ministers designate as they prepare to take their oath. Will work as a team, President Buhari assures Nigerians. Court recalls or reject suit on inauguration. This occurred in Abuja. Another rider is reading thus tax before new finance minister. This is from experts. Daily Trust is my next paper at this time. It's taking us back to the Oyo-Ita controversy, now leading with possible reasons why the head of service opted for early retirement. We'll see how that pans out. It appears that the EFCC is continuing with its investigation. Let's check out Vanguard next. More items face forex ban. CBN says no going back on Buhari's directive on food import. FG plans to apply stay of action on $9 billion judgment. Nigeria will not depend on handouts from foreign ministers or foreign partners from Buhari, and analysts reacts say more move will aggravate inflation, weaken naira value in parallel market. The final paper to look at this time is Nigerian Tribune, and it's reading as police lay siege to symposium venue, call for revolution not new. Senior advocate Femi Falana is saying the Nigerians will not allow dictatorship again, he adds. Cheryl, let me begin with you. Talking about where this Monday incident, we saw Falana joining a delegation, a protest now, still insisting on the revolution now mandate. What are your thoughts now? We saw the police, also observing and also, taking a stand against the protests.
Well, what we saw yesterday, I think, in Oregun, Ikeja, the coalition gathered, coalition for revolution gathered yesterday at Oregun. The police said they couldn't hold their meeting for the usual fear that miscreants are going to take over the event and so on. So they were stranded as journalists. Everybody was waiting until Falana showed up, and then had to speak with the police people, who eventually said, okay, they're going to carry out a body search and so on, and then they eventually led them into allowed them to go in to hold the meeting. But I think that, by and large, anybody who is taking a closer look at what is going on in Nigeria today will realize that the space for civic engagement, the space for democratic evolution is gradually and significantly getting choked up. Democracy thrives on information, and the rule in democracy is that no matter how unpopular an opinion is, it should be heard. I, for one, if we take a comparative analysis of countries where people have toppled the government in terms of an actual revolution, it's what the so-called revolution and even yesterday's meeting doesn't come anywhere close, But the fact that whenever we see people wanting to gather, wanting to air their views, they are being called terrorists, or they are being, or the police or the soldiers come down so hard on them and say, you can't meet, you can't sit, you can't walk, you can't have your discussions. I think it's worrying. It's very worrying.
Right.
And we need to tell ourselves that, look, we're in a democratic dispensation. If after 20 years of democracy, we cannot look one another in the eye and say the truth to ourselves, I don't think that we are making progress, much progress.
Shijibomi, is this how you read the situation as well? Do you also see from your end a narrowing down of the civic space?
I don't really see it that way, to be honest. With the information that I have access to. The only thing is, for revolution now, the government is, maybe they know what we don't know, or they have information that we don't have. Because everybody has said, it's just like you want to kill an ant and you bring a sledgehammer. So there are ways to manage.
You're talking from the angle of the government now in dealing with the revolution now. Protest.
There's a way you can engage people. There's a way you can even, send representatives to even get to hear these people's, what their grievances are. Be a part of them. So I think that is what, but for these only people, revolution now, I wouldn't want us to, because of the kind of approach the government is meting out them, now use it to generalize. Protests happen in Nigeria every day. Unity Fountain is there in Abuja. Then
where the police has banned all protests. I hope you're aware.
I'm
Abuja.
not aware of that. I'm not aware of that.
It's
like the Afenifere group and the Middle Belt people, every now and then, they come together. They release statements on restructuring, on insecurity and all that. So I think, because my fear, I have a fear about this thing. I've looked at antecedents and patterns. When people call for all this unrest, the beneficiaries have a way of staying away and let the dust settle and come back to.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable with a particular word you used there now. You know, when the campaigners call for unrest, I'm not sure if that is, you know, the mindset or the agenda of protest of this nature, for example, revolution now. But then I'm just expressing a concern. Now, that's on the side. We're looking at the involvement of the police. Court after court have said, let the system be comfortable enough for protests. You let people air their views, and police have a mandate from the courts now. You can only observe protests. You have no right to be involved in protests. Of course, you raised the points there about what is happening in Abuja, the BBOG, and the likes. And now we are seeing some sort playing out here in Lagos. Where are we heading to? Are our security operatives mindful of their legal constraints?
I think it is only in a dictatorship where you don't have a parliament, where you have just an executive arm of government as we used to have in military systems, you know. And so somebody just tells you what the law should be. That's a dictatorship. But under 99 Constitution, as amended, people have it doesn't matter that they call themselves whatever name they want to call them. It is what they do. And yesterday's meeting was not even a protest, Kemi. It was a meeting.
Indoor.
Yes, it was supposed to be a meeting on the state of the nation, on state of democracy, state of insecurity. Shoyinka was supposed to be there. He couldn't make it. It was when Falana arrived and intervened that everything began to change. The issue is this. Who is afraid of alternative opinion? Because a democracy is supposed to be a marketplace of ideas where you buy. Today I can hold an opinion on the left. Tomorrow I can say I'm on the moderate left. Tomorrow I can say I'm on the center. Well, and later on I can say
gentlemen,
I'm on the right.
Absolutely.
But the fact is that when we constantly hold in apprehension people who want to hold meetings and not have alternative opinions, it is no longer democratic.
All right.
It becomes undemocratic.
Cyril and Shijibomi, I'm afraid we've run out of time now. I appreciate your comments on this issue. Now we'll continue to see how the situation unfolds as we move on as a nation. Shijibomi, Bennett, and Cyril Baku, thank you very much for your time on TVC Breakfast.
Head into the papers now, see what the headlines are across Nigeria. But to do justice to all of this, I have with me in the studio Cyril Baku as well as Shijibomi Adebi Bennett, our analysts in the studio this morning. Gentlemen, nice to see you both.
Thank you, Mike.
Great. Let's begin with the Nation newspaper now. Nation says EFCC gets more facts on Oyo-Ita 3 billion naira fraud, and head of civil service under pressure to quit. You have that on the front page of the Nation newspaper. Now, Nigerian News Direct is the next one now that says, my administration will lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty. That's President Buhari is quoted as saying this. It charges ministers to prepare for long hours of work. Okay. From there, let's go to the Daily Sun. Financial crisis imminent. Federal government is revealing this, saying raises issues over target realization in tax revenue. Experts blame government and prepare for laborious days, Buhari tells incoming ministers. Okay, let's move now to the blueprint. As ministers designate take oath, will work as a team. Buhari print. As ministers designate take oath, will work as a team. Buhari assures Nigerians. Court rejects suit on inauguration and tasks before a new finance minister. Experts are trying to set the agenda there. I guess we'll be talking about that as we get along now in the analysis. Daily Trust is where we go next now. Why Oyo-Ita opted for early retirement. Okay, that's what you see on the front page of the Daily Trust, even though the presidential spokesperson has said that they have not received any official letter from the head of civil service talking about retirement. Let's move now to the Vanguard newspaper. More items face forex ban. As the CBN, the Central Bank of Nigeria, is saying this, says no going back on Buhari's directive on food import, and federal government plans to apply stay of action on $9 billion judgment. And Nigeria won't depend on handouts from foreign partners, as the president is quoted as saying this. Analysts react, say move will aggravate inflation, weaken naira value in the parallel market. Nigeria Tribune is where we go next now. And Nigeria Tribune is talking as police lay siege to symposium venue, call for revolution, not new. Femi Falana is saying this, the senior advocate of Nigeria. He said Nigerians won't allow dictatorship again. He adds to all of that. Okay, he made reference to the days of IBB and Abacha and said that those days will never come back again when it comes to elements of democracy. All right, gentlemen, the story on the blueprint would interest you here and says, as ministers designate take oath, will work as a team, Buhari assures Nigerians. And we all know that the ministers designate are today is their second day of the retreat. And after the retreat today, we Nigerians look forward to the announcement of who is going to handle what portfolio and all of that. So it will now begin to set the tone for the commencement of the programs of government. But when you look at the persons, the pegs that are retreating now, putting them into the round holes, I wonder what you make of the next dispensation, how they will hit the ground running, and what they have to, offer the ideas and the agenda of government. Shijibumi, let me start with you on this.
Yes, I love that statement that was made, that we'll work as a team. And I think working as a team does not just, the focus should not just be on the ministers.
Okay.
Proper lines of communication has to be established.
Communication is key.
Yeah. Then, because the last time we had a situation whereby the Controller General of Customs was not reporting to the person that he should have been reporting to. Yeah. And everybody was claiming my loyalty or my report should go to the CNC, daily, which is not supposed to be. And we also had the situation of the Minister for State for Aviation and the Minister for Transportation. So in all of these things, I don't think we can have a situation whereby ministers conflict or encroach
we also had
boundaries.
the GM, the NNPC, and the Minister of State for Petroleum at the time.
We can continue to reel out all these situations. Don't forget the Minister for Health and the...
Exactly, NHIS.
NHIS guy. So when things are not properly done, you won't get the desired result. So working as a team now should go beyond the 43-man cabinet. It should extend to those parastatals, the MDAs, so that everybody knows what the institutions should be strengthened. So everybody knows what they're supposed to do. Right. And the first point is the round pegs and round holes. There are some key ministries: finance, transportation, power, works. Every of those ministries is important. But the key ones, because Nigerians want result in those key areas. And I think people with very positive and established experience and antecedents should be put
and
there.
Pedigree.
So yes, pedigree, so that we can get
Cyril, what Shijibumi has said, communication is key. A lot of people in the past, we've heard when people act based on the body language of the CNC, they didn't hear him say this, but because they think that is how he's reasoning and that's how he's thinking, so let's act in that same way. And when they act like that sometimes, and the CEC doesn't say anything, sometimes it's interpreted as, okay, that's an endorsement of what I've done, even though it doesn't tell well of building an institution.
Yes.
What do you see from that window?
I think that, as Bumi has very correctly pointed it out, there were a number of departures, very unhealthy departures, where even, truthfully speaking, the president could make a policy statement that could be at variance with what a minister said only days before. But that is by the way. I think that since this is a cabinet of continuity, as it should be, from change to next level, what the primarily should be looking at are what are the points of convergence and divergence? What are the things that we have done successfully in the last 4 years that can be continued? And what are the lessons that we have learned in the past 4 years that we should also discontinue, if there are any, on both sides? So I think there's a document, maybe it's not in public, but there's a document that was put together, an audit of where the government, of how far the government had journeyed, which is part of what is forming the points of discourse at the ongoing retreat in Abuja. Mr. President should be beholden to his cabinet. He should be more assertive in making sure that people's loyalties are not to him personally. Appointees, either in the cabinet or in institutions, INEC, all these that make democracy work, should be answerable to the Nigerian people because they are paid with taxpayers' money.
Right.
That is one. Then number two, I think that since the expectations we had in 2015, we are not fully met in 4 years, government should be modest enough to narrow down what it wants to achieve. Let me again align with what Bumi said in the beginning. I believe that if there is any sector that is most critical in fixing this country, it will be power.
Okay.
So the president, well, let's make sure that that agreement we have with Siemens is fully executed. And then, even if what we're going to do is to take power off the exclusive list, and make, if Nigeria is
and devolve it,
then we can.
All right.
So I think we need to just narrow it down and focus on one thing.
No problem. We look forward to that. I guess all of those dotting of I's and crossing of T's, like they say, will be going on at the retreat before the commencement of the new cabinet proper. Thank you very much, Cyril Abaku, for joining us on the program. Shidi Bumi, Adebi Bennett, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you.